Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I'm, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I am joined by Mother Iron.
Hey, folks, welcome to another week of wrestling talk here at the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone saw some good wrestling this week. I know I did.
Yeah, man. I mean, we'll get into a little bit about, you saw some cool stuff on YouTube, man.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. What was it, Impact's?
Impact, they do some of their live events, premium live events, are done on YouTube. And if you join one of the YouTube membership tiers, you can watch their live events. And you can also do that with the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast.
That's right, man. So we did make sure we announced it to our Patreon members. We kind of talked about it and everything. And so what we're going to do is we're going to consolidate Patreon at the end of the month. And I will continue to support it all the way through the end of the month because those people were charged on the first. But we're going to move everything over to YouTube. So youtube.com/C, which is for channel /Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. Or you could just search Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast in the search bar. That's probably the easiest way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing the membership levels there. So,
It's so easy, folks. It is just like YouTube, anything else. You're on YouTube all the time. I know I am. It's one of my favorite websites. I use it all the time. Get a lot of entertainment there. You go over to our page, subscribe. That's the first thing you do.
I always say
That's
subscribe, turn your notifications on.
Yep.
And then right next to that button will be join.
Join. And that's where you can join us. And much like the Patreon, there's going to be certain tiers, and there are going to be different levels of rewards you get per tier.
Yes. And they're all there, by the way. They're all explained there, so we're not going to tie up everybody that's, listening on the podcast version. But go there. It has everything that's available, what you get and stuff. It's mirroring a lot of what we were doing over on Patreon. I just wanted to bring it. It's all going to consolidate down into one place, one home, one hub right there on YouTube. It seems to be doing the best out of all of them, so we're just kind of going to move everything into one home. So hopefully if you'd like to move, let us know. Email us, tappedoutpod@gmail.com, and let us know if you have any troubles or thoughts or whatever. I think it's pretty easy to do. So
just like when WWE went to Peacock. We're going to put our content out there where more people can find it. And what did you watch on Peacock this weekend, Nick?
Dude, we watched a ton of stuff, but we're going to talk about Backlash because that's what I watched this weekend. But first, as always, man, before we get into the questions and all that kind of stuff, let's jump first into the TV talk, which is kind of what we always do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so let's start there. And so it's kind of going to be a little bit of out of order, kind of, sort of, but not exactly. Just lots of stuff between, look, man, I hate to tell people right now, man, I'm pretty excited. Raw's been good. Smackdown's been good. Dynamite's been good. Mm-hmm. I openly tell everybody I don't tend to watch a lot of Rampage, but based on last week's numbers, it doesn't seem like hardly a lot of people did. Because, the tape format is just so tough to watch. That's just my take. But, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying for me, it's a difficult watch on a tape show that I've already know. I'm going to give up my Friday night afternoon, depending on when they air that show, to actually watch, something on a Friday night. It's a tough ask, and it's
a lot of Fridays we're at wrestling shows,
right? And that's what I mean by I'm not shitting on Rampage itself. No. I just think that it's between a rock and a hard place. Oh, absolutely.
Because it's hard for us to even get to watch SmackDown with going to live shows. But I can DVR it. I can DVR Rampage. We'll get to it when I can get to it.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. But let's jump first on my launching point was I wanted to start on Raw this week because there was a couple things that just jumped off the page on Raw. Look, when the fallout of Backlash, which we'll address in a second, Seth and Cody, I assumed they were going to kind of part ways and move on, but clearly that is not the case, as Seth Rollins basically attacked Cody. So, and they kind of insinuate between Raw and in social media, Seth Rollins made some comments. It's basically, I guess, because June 5th is Hell in a Cell now.
Yeah, that's close.
And it looks like all signs point that it's going to be Cody and Seth in the cage, maybe?
I hope so, but there's not a lot of interference in this match. And that doesn't make any sense to put up a match with not a lot of interference, but a quality match. The good God, these two have put on two barn burners. The one they put on Backlash was amazing. I would think it should be AJ and Edge in the cell though,
Right.
because they're the ones that have all the interference.
And that's my thing. You would think AJ would demand a Hell in a Cell match versus, Seth and Cody have been having good just matches.
Yes.
So I just don't see anything to escalate it to Hell in a Cell at this point. But we'll find out, I guess, over the coming weeks at who gets it. But all signs for me would point that Edge and AJ would end up in there because that's the only way AJ can keep out all the parties that are involved now.
Exactly.
Alexa Bliss returned this week. I know there's a lot of
Good to
people
see.
mixed about the actual return and how it went down, and the Sonya Deville and all that stuff involved. But I'm just happy she's back at this point.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to have her back. She's a very important contributor to the WWE, and
Yeah.
it's good to have her back. I'm still got to figure out how this gimmick's going to work, but I'm happy to see her.
Yeah, I mean, because she's back as Alexa Bliss. She had the old music, but she's still carrying Lily. And apparently, from someone that we know that was at that show, there were Lily dolls everywhere. There were there were little girls at that show that there was tons of Lily dolls, getting carried around at that place. And that's what I mean by she has so much to offer when I talk about Alexa Bliss.
Well, that's the thing is that's a demographic that doesn't buy wrestling toys, Nick. Okay, that's a group in the audience that's there to see the show, but they don't have anything at the booth for them. And all of a sudden now they got something they want, and they're selling the hell out of them. I can see why they stuck with the gimmick.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not going down this rabbit hole, but all the things that Alexa's past and stuff that make her how could you not get behind somebody like her? I think that tradition's carried on in Lacey Evans and her return. That these vignettes they've been doing and telling that her true story, again another person okay, please God leave her as a babyface because all of those things that you see about her are true in those vignettes. So it's how could you not be behind that person? How could you not root for that person? It's a handmade recipe for a babyface.
Oh yeah, it's Bruce Pritchard doing the vignettes all over again, like he did with so many other great wrestlers he introduced. And I think this one's going to hit home, and it's going to be easy to get her over. I hope
we
leave her that way.
Well, we'll see if she can get there. But I will tell you, as we shift over to AEW, Wardlow ain't having no problems getting over. This again, time travel, folks, to last week on Dynamite. His match with Morrissey, Cass, whatever you want to call him, I thought was really, really good. You could clearly hear the crowd behind him.
Yes.
Now, some people would argue he's super over because of MJF is his opponent, but they have a future with Wardlow.
Yeah, they got to build some stuff with him. I think it's going to be solid. Yeah. They're gonna have that's to me the first guy I've seen that they've built. They brought in a lot of talent.
Some people would argue. Would you argue Darby? I mean, because Darby and MJF. I mean, listen, they were kind of MLW, and they were kind of really to make them a star. Do you think that's their first two?
Maybe, but those guys. They were already established, and I guess I knew more about them since I follow indie wrestling. All have been following wrestling, but the whole thing. Wardlow is the guy I think they're going to be able to make a living on for a long time if they can keep him.
Yeah,
if Vince don't snap him up.
Yeah, because he fits very much into the mold of what something Vince would like. So that does, 100%. I agree with you there. But some stuff that Vince has had, they teased this past week again. Time travel, folks. The Hardys and the Bucks kind of have a tease, okay, this thing's coming. We'll see tomorrow / yesterday, depending on when you're listening, on Dynamite if they follow up and through. But in the end, isn't this why Jeff's even there? Just because we got to get this match, right? I think
exactly
they've had this match, but it was Ring of Honor or on an indie show or some craziness or something. You remember right before the Hardys came back to WWE?
It might have been the night before they came
It was
back.
The night before the Mania. I think it was an indie show or something. Or Ring of Honor. Hell, who cares at this point? But anyway, so they had. But I mean, now you're going to get it on a national television channel. So that I think that's coming, and I know a lot of people are going to be jacked about that for sure. On NXT this week, I know this whole women's breakout tournament thing's going. I have the question for you, Myron, is like Nikita Lyons advanced this week on NXT, but is she clearly the odds-on favorite? Like at this point, like doesn't she have to win?
She has to win because of her internet buzz. Let's just be reasonable. This woman has generated an entirely amazing giant internet buzz, so you have to ride with that. Now there's some great talent in that tournament, and they can still come out looking good without winning it. I think Lyons is the only sure bet. If I was a betting man, or who the hell bets on wrestling, I would bet on her.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then you brought up Under Siege, Impact this past week. The Briscoes are now your Impact Tag Team Champions.
Yep, I love what Impact does. To me, it's almost like watching an indie show. I love the indie shows. I know people that are on Impact. I can just tune in and it feels like I'm watching just a good show. When WWE looks so good, and it's awesome to have WWE being so great and AEW so shiny, but Impact is gritty, and that's why I like it. It's kind of like the shows we actually drive to go see.
Yeah, and like I said, I think the Briscoes capturing those titles kind of answers the question we had asked a while back. Like, where's their next home if it's not Ring of Honor or AEW or wherever? And I'm like, look, Impact's probably the one that fits the most. And then, of course, now here they are, which makes perfect sense.
The thing about Impact is they tape. And the Briscoes have just canceled a bunch of indie dates because of some kind of health issues in their family. And they're only going to be working closer to home. Being able to work on a promotion that's taped right now would be a lot better for them.
Yeah.
Not have to travel as much.
It's easier to schedule. I mean, it's like, hey, we're going to be we're taping these days, do those, and you'll be set for a while. So 100%, yeah. But before we jump into the questions this week, man, we want to take a second to have a little shout out, ad from our friends over at Athletic Greens. They came in last week, man, and a lot of good buzz and feedback from them. I know they're all over the place advertising. We just wanted to welcome to the team. But hey, let's hear what they got to say this week. Our next partner has a product I use literally every day. I started taking AG1 because I wanted more energy, and I wanted to see what was all the hype about. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, even aging. I personally use it because when I started this keto fasting diet I'm on, I was worried about the energy I was going to have. Not now. It supports better sleep quality, recovery, mental clarity, even alertness. By the way, it's cheaper than getting all the different supplements that's in this thing. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 five-star reviews and even recommended by professional athletes. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient and daily nutrition. It's one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements that you're looking to look out for your health. So to make it easy for you, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you got to do is visit their website at athleticgreens.com/emerging. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/emerging to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, Myron. So what's our first question we got today? Let's keep it rolling, man.
Brady from Banks, Oregon wants to know, what did you guys think of WWE Backlash? Well, Brady, I liked it.
I would like to know people that didn't, to be honest with you, because it would be tough to, like for all of its, faults at WWE, this card was better than it had any right to be, right? Like
Yes.
storyline wise, heading down the
Mm-hmm.
road, getting there,
Mm-hmm.
it was clunky at times. People were crapping on the Charlotte Ronda, like how they were getting there, and then people complained about like, hey, we were supposed to get a unification match and all this, all these things that people complained about in a vacuum. And by the way, in a vacuum, sitting down and just watching the PLE, which is a lot of what there's a lot of fans that's all they do. They just sit down and watch stuff. Because here's the thing, they recap enough of it in videos and stuff half the time. You
Yeah.
don't even you're caught up.
Yeah. The
This was
weekly
a good show.
shows. The weekly shows are getting to the point where they're not even necessary as much because they do such a good job with the video packages. I like this. I fast forwarded through some stuff that I didn't want to see. I didn't care about Moss and Corbin.
See, and I think you missed out if you did. I thought the whole card was good.
I'm not saying the card wasn't good. There's just some stuff I didn't care about. I love the Cody and Seth match. I thought that was terrific. What are you going to do with this? What's this going to do? Are we going to get three? This is this going to be on 3 pay-per-views in a row? I think so, and I'm happy about it. Okay, it's a good deal.
Yeah, I think that we're gonna see them again at Hell in a Cell. We
Mm-hmm.
talked about it earlier. Like I don't know that it warrants the being in the cell, but I got a feeling this is probably the one we're gonna get.
Yeah, I want to see an all-cell pay-per-view. Did I do that one time?
No.
Every match in the cell, everything on there goes in the cell. Just leave the cell down the whole time. That's
See,
what my
I honestly thought, and we'll get to it in a second. I thought the Rousey Charlotte blow off would have potentially been in the cell, but that's
Well,
because
they
of
blew
how
that
violent.
off by basically breaking Charlotte's arm or whatever the storyline on that is. That was a great match. Those
Yes.
two beat the shit out of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And they put each other in submission holds. And
I would argue this match was the Rousey Charlotte match at Backlash was, well, I shouldn't say argue. I enjoyed it more than their Mania match by far.
Yeah. Oh, I did too. I did too. It kind of remembered when Sasha and Charlotte had that Hell in a Cell match where they wound up on the outside, ripping Charlotte through the railings, going up to the stands. I love that gimmick. If you're going to give me an I Quit match, make it an I Quit. Make it a match where somebody has to quit, and that's what you got here.
Yeah.
I mean,
once
required to quit.
to me, what it showed two, superstars or two talents overcoming what most people, did not like as far as the story getting there. People didn't enjoy that because of writing, creative, call it what you will.
Yeah.
But when those two stepped in the ring, they still delivered a great match. I thought it was. Here's what I loved about it. This is so. It goes back to the whole blood, no blood. We've had this debate in the past where I'm not a big fan of, and I know women bleeding excessively does eventually kind of go. They had a brutal match with no real blood.
Yeah.
I still believed it was brutal. I still believed it was violent,
yeah.
but there wasn't a lot of blood on it.
They did it right.
Yeah.
Blood to me is something that is the last straw. It's the last storytelling tool. In places, it's the best thing you can do to get something across. Other times, it's just not necessary. And they did their job without blood, and that was great.
Right.
And maybe we have daughters. Maybe that's it.
Maybe
that's just that's a thing that we have a bias against it since we're fathers of daughters.
Could be,
but
could very well be.
They hurt each other.
Yeah, but because but it was again talking about the story and how we got there. A lot of people complained about the 6-man that ended up being the main event, which was Roman, not the Bloodline, and with Orton and Riddle and McIntyre. Look, depending on who you believe, it was always the plan. They were just they went around a corner to get to where they wanted to go. But even if not, again, everybody was like, "Oh, this is gonna be blah blah blah." No, it was a really really good good match.
Oh yeah, I loved it. You got everybody over, okay? You got everybody time. You got all your moves, your pops, your Superman punch here, and the RKO's coming out of nowhere. Every gimmick, Matt Riddle, love what they did with this. Okay, it was different. We thought we were getting this, and we thought we were getting that. When we got something that you couldn't complain about. Okay, they gave you quality. It wasn't what you thought you were going to get initially, but you got a really good product in replacing it.
Yeah.
And unifying the belts is, I don't think, necessary right now. I don't think it's the right time to do that. I think they've got the belts, both of the championship belts on Roman, but they're not unified. He's carrying them separately. So technically he could still lose one of them and keep the other one.
Well, yeah, and we're going to discuss that a little bit, and because we got a question about Roman, so we'll go in depth on Roman. But Edge and AJ, their match. Here's the developing theme. I felt like the rematches on Backlash from WrestleMania were actually better than they were on WrestleMania.
Yes.
Which was that's what I meant by, like, it was a weird kind of vibe. And again, I liked all the ones on there. There was only one exception, which I'll get into in a second. But with AJ taking another loss, this time because somebody else interfered, turned out to be Rhea Ripley. And here's what's crazy. So this has been rumored for weeks now. We've been hearing that Rhea Ripley was going to join, and a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, it was so predictable. We wanted, it's all over the internet for the last couple of weeks." And I'm like, you could avoid spoilers by just getting off the fucking internet. I mean, you don't have to look at spoilers if you don't want to. You can block pages on Facebook if you want to, not go to websites, not go to message board. I mean, whatever. There's lots of
I have not seen the Doctor Strange movie yet, Nick. I have absolutely seen no spoilers. I have seen no trailers. I've seen no previews. I haven't even let you went to it. I didn't even get the whole thing from you. You can do this, folks. If you know so, just let it be.
Yeah. Spoiler alert: he does magic.
Shit.
But speaking of which, along those lines, I'm hearing, believe it or not, that this Edge group, the Judgment Day, is what they're going by. That it's, I know it's not Undertaker Supernatural, but it's kind of, very House of Black, Malachi Black, type thing or whatever, where it's supernatural dark or whatever. I hear a rumor that that's it. When this is over, when this like arc runs it, when Judgment Day runs its course, that they're done with supernatural stuff. Like Taker's gone.
No.
I hear that, like, Peacock wants out of the supernatural thing, and like it's like, just make it you get creative, but the whole darkness and supernatural.
Peacock wants out of supernatural.
That's what I hear, man, and we'll see. I could be wrong, and sources could be wrong. The Source brothers, Anonymous, and those guys, they could be wrong, but that's just what we hear. Following up, I thought Happy Corbin, Madcap must serve their purpose. It was a filler match. It was a letdown match in between. Bigger matches.
It was in the right spot.
Absolutely.
It was in exactly the right spot.
Yeah. Omos and Lashley. This was the one where I thought that was way better, because I was not a fan of the Mania match. I was a fan of this one because Lashley basically pulled out everything and anything he could get out of that kid. And I think he did a really good job.
Yeah.
So, now I tell you one thing we talked before we started recording here, and one of the things we both enjoyed about the show, there weren't overload of matches. It wasn't super long. It was almost like they went to a new format, in the sense of, like, sometimes when it goes to pay-per-view, especially Mania is the worst. And maybe it stood out so much probably because it was the card after Mania. Yeah. At Mania, everybody gets, they try to shove as many people on the card, and they still don't get them all on there.
No.
My take is, just put the ones that make sense on there. Less is more. Just work on quality over quantity. Look, you got enough between Raw, SmackDown, and all this other crap.
Exactly.
You got enough time.
You don't have to pay out every single angle on every single pay-per-view.
No.
Okay? You do it in stages. Like, one, you're working on it on TV, building, while you're blowing off another angle on the pay-per-view. And then that next pay-per-view rolls off. The people that you could do this in cycles.
Listen, Myron, they're serving so many masters at this point with between USA and Fox and Peacock and all this. My argument is, have the United States title defended on the Raw following the pay-per-view if it doesn't fit on there, or the Raw or SmackDown tag titles are defended on Friday night before, or whatever, or before or after. You're after ratings on television shows, Title matches happen there. And I just think if you focus more on like trying to, it goes back to the similar thing of like, we've got to have a Hell in a Cell match.
Yeah.
So we pigeonhole a match and go, we'll pick this one and make it in a Hell in a Cell. Why? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
If the storyline flows to the point that your title match is on SmackDown, have it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't feel like you have to get everything and set up perfectly for a pay-per-view at this point.
And I need to get this out of my system before we get to Hell in a Cell. I hate the pay-per-views that are named after a match, except for Royal Rumble. That's the only one that can stay that way. Hell in a Cell is a match, not a pay-per-view. TLC is a match, not a pay-per-view.
Right.
When you you name the pay-per-view Hell in a Cell, you've got to force something to be Hell in a Cell match.
Yeah.
Hell in a Cell should be a payoff for a long angle to me. It could be on any pay-per-view.
But it sells tickets.
Yeah, it does.
And that's kind of the why to there. So
I get it. But I this time of year, I always have to go on that rant.
Yeah, because Money in the Bank's not too far behind it. So, I mean,
yes, exactly.
Yeah, so exactly. But speaking of money, the next question involves somebody who's obviously hitting just strides with his money.
Yes. It is Spencer from Abbeville wants to know, Abbeville, Louisiana, what was your takeaway from Roman's comments at a house show that got the IWC gossip mill running wild? Well,
listen, it was in Trenton, New Jersey. Basically, he took to a mic. Roman Reigns took the mic, basically quasi, cut a promo, insinuated it might be the last time he's there for a while. Everybody went bananas. Everybody was like, oh my God, because he said he's moving on to the next phase of his life. And everybody just assumed like, oh my God, he's leaving WWE, or oh my God, all these things or whatever.
He's a movie star.
Yeah, he's leaving. He's leaving WWE. He's gonna go be a movie star with Rock or whatever. My translation was, okay. He was insinuating it's probably the last time you're gonna see me in Trenton, New Jersey. Listen,
on a house show.
No offense to any of our people, our listeners in Trenton, New Jersey, but it's a smaller market, and his whole takes being, it's probably the last time you're gonna see me here for a while, unless we're doing a TV like a Raw or a paper, or something like that here. I think we when we say this is Roman is a TV star, he's not a live event attraction anymore.
Yes, and that's a great thing to be able to say about a talent, is they've gotten too big to use them on house shows. Think about it. You're that big a draw. They've got that much money in you. Okay, they've got as many stories wrapped around you. Why waste you when it's not going to be seen by everybody? Now, I know that sounds like a crappy thing to do, but it's a business decision, folks. Okay? Roman doesn't need to wrestle unless he's on TV or on pay-per-view or on something. If he goes to a show, house show, Usos wrestle, not him. He's just too big. He's up there in that superstar status now.
Yeah, he's reached the Orton, and I know Orton does live events too, but Brock, I mean, they have these guys who, like, you just reach a certain level where, like, hey, look, you're just working in front of cameras is the way I always look at it. You're working in front of cameras.
Yes.
There'll be an exception, I'm sure. Madison Square Garden, that's Vince's baby, so I'm sure that kind of stuff will continue, and there'll probably be other exceptions. But the thing is Roman is the future of the WWE. Whether you like it or not, he's the future. The old proverbial bump card. You only have so many bumps on your body.
Yep.
If you take care of Roman and you preserve him as much as possible, I think you get a decade or two out of this guy.
Yeah. He's in phenomenal shape.
Yeah.
He can probably run, look at the Edge business model, basically. You have a full career, you retire, you come back for short runs after that. Always able to come back and do a short, because you're in such phenomenal shape.
I just don't know that he ever leaves is my thing. I think he just has that continuous, like, he's on top forever. I heard the question was brought up of he's at like some crazy number now. What is it, like 600 days or something?
Yeah. Is he the Samoan San Martino?
That's actually what somebody asked. I was listening to Busted Open, and one of the questions brought up was, is there a possibility that they consider having him make a run at San Martino's record? like he'd have to be champion for like 5 more years or something crazy.
Well,
But
they got it
listen,
started.
well, here's the crazy thing: if you're going to him versus Rock at the next Mania, that's a year away. So then you're at 3.
Mm-hmm.
If he holds it for all the way through then, because they're wrestling for it, right? And if he's wrestling The Rock, he's beating The Rock, by the way.
You got to.
So you just keep rolling. Anyway, there's lots to be said there, but but I think I think those were the comments that what he meant by it wasn't like he's going anywhere per se. I just think that's
he's going in a different direction.
Exactly. So but Myron, that's
these are all gambles. Everything we're saying is a gamble. And where do we go to gamble, Nick?
You still working on this?
It's 2 minutes to kickoff. Who do I pick?
2 words, Prize Picks. It's so easy. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. It's just you against the number. Simply pick the over-under on 2 or more players, and that's it. You can win up to 10 times your money in just one day. Join over 150,000 people who found a better way to play. Download the Prize Picks app today and get your first deposit match up to $100.
That's right, man. Keep those picks coming and keep those deposits. Get some free money, man. You put your deposit in, they're going to give you some to go with it. So check out our friends over at Prize Picks. But all right, brother, what do we got next?
Well, here's a good one. Speaking of Cash from Wheeler, Texas wants to know, what do you believe is the future of the Blackpool Combat Club? Well, it's real popular. People are buzzing about it. But you don't think it's that great.
Here's the crazy thing. Love Brian Danielson. Grew to really enjoy John Moxley / Dean Ambrose.
Yes.
And God, do we love Steven Regal, right?
I have been a Regal fan since I was a child.
Yeah.
This man is just always that good.
But the Blackpool Combat Club, I've actually been underwhelmed by it.
Well,
again, goes back to I know they're talented and they're unbelievable talents. It's just a weird scenario, and it's probably not popular, by the way, and I fully understand that. It just feels like 2 + 2 is 3, not 4. And God, you would hope you'd get 5. In the sense of that, like, I think that the total is less than the sum of the parts. I think that's maybe where I'm going with it.
Well, you start with 2 massive stars, 2 of the most massive stars that you have, your giant signings, and you put them. Now, does everything in AEW have to be a faction? Is everybody got to be in some form of faction somehow? It just seems to me like everybody's in a faction. But why do you put those 2 together? Those 2 can stand alone and be separate attractions.
Now, I will answer this way, and see if you follow me here. Could the reason are they together is simply to keep them away from the title? Because if they're individual, you got to argue, why are both of these guys not getting title shots?
That makes sense to me. That's the biggest. They're the biggest threats to the title. You want to keep them on a program and keep them away from a shot. Put them together, make them work through the tag. Yeah, I get it. That makes sense to me.
Maybe, but I just think that, like, individually they're both, and I don't mean good or really good. They're both great talent.
Yeah, they're Hall of Famers wherever they go.
And
if they've stopped by a show, they're a Hall of Famer. And this Wheeler Yuta kid is going to benefit huge.
Yeah.
Okay, he's managed by Regal, and he's learning from those 2 guys, and he's already a pretty decent talent. So great for him. This is going to be. I mean, he's going to be the one that pays off from this. Maybe it's a mentoring thing. Maybe they see something in him that they want to push farther.
But not at the expense of not for the expense of those other 2.
Yeah.
I like them individually. I would have loved, if Regal started think about this. He could have started a Blackpool Combat Club and taken Yuta and then taken somebody else and made like he was mentoring these young guys and bringing them along. I mean, that's
maybe that's how they get this thing over. Maybe they use Brian and Dean to get this thing over. and then they leave, and Regal's back here with a younger talent. And that's how it works.
Maybe I hope something, but I'm just not. And listen, again, it's the reason you're torn is because of the love that you have for the parties involved,
Yes.
but you don't think that it's mutually benefiting out on the other side. Maybe that's kind of where I'm at. I enjoy their matches. That's the like when you watch their matches, they're like really good. Okay, but what are they doing?
Yeah.
So I think that's the struggle with me, as far as being underwhelmed with them. So that's just my take. So.
Okay. And for our final question, Jake from Oak Park, California wants to know, do you guys think the rumored Freddie Prinze Jr. promotion could work? Well, he's going to try to do some stuff no one has done in the wrestling business before. But he's a Hollywood guy. So he has Hollywood contacts.
Yeah.
And wrestling contacts.
That's right. He did WWE. He was on the creative team for a while, so he does have background in both. Look, he talks about plans of this, hoping within the next 18 months that he will have this thing rolled out. Is it going to be more scripted, like show, or is it going to, versus wrestling only? I think those are the things that we want to find out, right? Is it going to be more like, hey, is it going to be more Lucha Underground?
That was a fascinating show.
Yeah. But at the same time, is he going to do, because he was saying it's hard to get TV right now. It's hard to get TV when you first start. Let's put it that way. So is he just going to go around, do some live shows? Is he going to, I'd use YouTube. I mean, something like that. Maybe, fight one of the app streaming service or something.
Look at this GCW group. They're growing by leaps and bounds every day. There's a place under the big guys right now that people are succeeding in wrestling, that companies are profiting in wrestling. Between the indies, is it a super indie? Is it more of a promotion type show? Whatever he does, it's going to add to wrestling. Okay? This isn't going to hurt wrestling. This is going to add some kind of content. If it fails, it fails. But the fact that he wants to take care of his wrestlers by getting them in the Screen Actors Guild, the fact that he already has a plan, like a 3-year plan set up, I'm impressed. It's not just some guy renting a ring and calling himself a promoter.
Right. He went back to work, and that was part of the interview that he just recently did. He stated the reason he went back to work acting was to make money for this project, because he didn't want to run it for 6 months to a year and then realize I'm running out of money. I got to go make Scooby-Doo 7.
Yeah.
It's like, so I want to just go ahead and make enough money.
House was a little light, boys. Got to do some Scooby-Doo.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, so his whole role was, I'll go out and do all of this now. Like, he's got a new Netflix thing coming, that's coming out or whatever. And like all of it, he was like, I went and made this stuff. I took these jobs to fund this project for 3 years, so I wouldn't. If he can secure 3 years worth of financing up front, and trust me, if he's a Hollywood guy, he's a WWE creative guy. Now, he did say, by the way, he's not going to book. He would hire a booker / create whatever, because that's not him at all. But so I admire that from day one, that he's going to say,
not his ego taking over this. I actually messaged him on one of the social media platforms to try to talk to him about getting a job. I can't lie. This sounds solid. This sounds like a business. This sounds like somebody. Enough, just tell me about it, Freddie. Give me an exclusive. I'd love to talk to you. I'm so psyched to see the amount of all around wrestling, the amount of development that's happening right now. I think it's great.
Yeah. And like I said, benefits, pension, insurance, all that stuff would be great for the guys long term. I think we had this conversation a while back about getting wrestlers into the Screen Actors Guild, and should they belong there, and they would get insurance and benefits and long term. Look, it's a totally different world. I'm glad that somebody at least with the background is kind of getting into it, so maybe he knows how to kind of help facilitate all of that, I guess. But I think it could very well work, and to be honest with you, I think he's a good one, since he has at least had his feet in both worlds at one point. So
yes.
I think there is all the potential. So Jake, thanks for that question. We appreciate it. And we also appreciate, man, anybody like I said, we mentioned it at the top of the show. We wanted to bring it up one more time. The Patreon will go away at the end of the month. We will continue to support it all through the month. So all of our Patreon listeners, don't worry about it. We will continue to support it all the way through. And I'll probably carry it a week past it just because, just to make sure that we don't miss anything. Nobody misses anything. But we are going to be moving and consolidating to our memberships over at youtube.com. Of course, that's YouTube. And then, of course, you could do youtube.com/C/Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast, or just search Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast there in the thing. Make sure you subscribe there, turn on your notifications, but, and join as well, all the above, as you'll get the comments, you'll get everything's going to be, like I said, literally Patreon will essentially move to that YouTube memberships. Podcast listeners, you could still listen to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartMedia, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, all of your favorite podcast platforms. We are still there. That's not going anywhere. That's not going to change. So, make sure if that's the way you do it. But hey, we would prefer that you do it all at YouTube now, man. Like I said, we're going to make it a one-stop shop. Make it one place.
Been very good to us.
Yeah, we really enjoy that platform, and it's done really well. And I think that's kind of where we're going to make our new home, probably permanently.
I love what you're doing with the indie shows you're putting up, Nick. Getting to see David Ali's final match in Georgia versus AEW superstar Alan Angels, who looked terrific, by the way. That's cool. That's cool. I like to get this exposure out there.
Yeah, and a lot of that stuff, what we'll do is like the members will get those matches early. They'll get, so basically you'll get everything, like I said, just like on Patreon, early, or some stuff's going to be exclusive moving forward. I thought about that as well. Some high, matches. I think some matches that a lot of people really want to see, I'm probably going to hide behind the paywall. So that might be another reason why you want to subscribe as well, to make sure you don't miss any of the matches, especially the ones we don't put out on our YouTube. Because I've talked to some promotions and they've said you could use them, but they got to be behind the paywall, not out public. So I was like, okay, so we can probably swing that. So you'll be able to see all that stuff there. So
fascinating.
Yeah, lots of crazy stuff, man. And we're excited about it. So check us out over on YouTube, Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. And don't just subscribe. Don't just turn your notifications on. Join. It's right there next to it. Join and become a member on the, as one of the members of the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. So, anything else you got in, man, before we get out of here today?
No, man. It's such a good note to end the show on. So much positivity. I'm in a good mood because of wrestling once again. Thank you,
man. And also, by the way, check out this week's Georgia Indie Talk, because there's a big announcement about the Georgia Indie Talk program as well that'll be on there, and that is only available on Patreon through the end of the month, and of course over on YouTube. So, man, if that's all I've got, man, what's the old saying, brother? If I've got nothing, you've got nothing. What time is it?
It's time to tap out.